So this week we have a very interesting battle. The Packers versus the Lions. Coming in on Thursday Night Football, two teams in the NFC North, both sitting at 2-1. And entering this season, there was lots of debate as to which team is going to be able to take over the NFC North. Obviously, with the Packers starting with Jordan Love, there was just this uncertainty as to what the Packers would be because we'd only seen Jordan Love start in one career game. Now we do have 3 weeks of Jordan Love playing, and I think we have a better idea of the kind of quarterback he is. You have the Lions, on the other hand, who the past couple of seasons have slowly progressed and made their way to being a much more competitive team in the NFL after decades and decades of poor play. Haven't really won a playoff game since the early 90s. But Dan Campbell has done a really good job of turning this roster around. They beat the Packers to end last season with Aaron Rodgers, finishing with a better record than the Packers last season. And so now these are two teams both sitting at 2-1. And the result of Thursday night's game is going to be, big when it comes to the rest of the season. Whoever wins this game will be atop the NFC North, sitting at 3-1. And I think looking at this matchup, it's going to be a pretty interesting game. I do think it's going to be a high-scoring game. Taking a look at both offenses, I think they're pretty high-powered, and I think that we're going to see more points scored in this game. I don't think it's going to be one of those tight, close defensive games. That's just not really the read I'm getting on it right now. But I want to start off looking at the Packers offense and Jordan Love. So far, Love has 655 passing yards, 7 touchdowns, and 1 interception, the 13th highest passer rating in the NFL. And one interesting note, he has the highest average depth of target in the NFL at 10.9 yards, so he has been pushing the ball down the field. And the Packers are sitting at 2-1 without top receiver in Christian Watson, who I think once Watson is in, which he should be in on Thursday, he said he expects to play earlier today. I'd expect Love average depth of target to increase, considering Watson is the Packers, explosive guy, the guy who can take it deep to the house any play because of his 4.37 speed. And so the fact that Love has done what he's done without Christian Watson is pretty remarkable. I think you have to give credit to lots of these young receivers here in Green Bay. Rookies, Jaden Reed has played well, even though he's been a little bit up and down when it comes to dropping balls. Dontavian Wicks, 5th rounder, has played really good, looked really awesome out there. Tight end Luke Musgrave has been pretty reliable in the passing game as well. And so looking at that, the fact that Christian Watson should be back will lead to, I think, an even more explosive Packers offense. The other guy we got to talk about, Aaron Jones, also expected to play on Thursday after missing the past 2 games. And if we go back to week 1, the Packers, facing off against the Bears, when Aaron Jones was on the field, the Packers offense was moving the ball at will. When he wasn't getting the ball in his hands, the Packers struggled a lot more. And that's just a testament to Aaron Jones, his explosiveness, his vision, his agility, his ability to break away at any time. And so the fact that the Packers will be getting their 2 most explosive players on offense back this week is a very, very big deal. I mean, they're expected to be back, so it's looking like they're trending towards playing. And so looking at this Lions defense, where they're strong, where they're weak. They're currently the 15th best scoring defense in the NFL, 19th versus the pass, 5th when it comes to rush yards allowed per game. So they're definitely better in the when it comes to stopping the run. If we look at the one game they lost, the Seahawks beat them 37-31 in overtime. In the Seahawks, the way they won that game, they threw the ball for 328 yards with Geno Smith. They couldn't run the ball, only had 82 yards at 3.3 yards per carry. We look at the game last week for the Lions. They held the Falcons to only 20 carries at 2.2 yards per carry. Bijan Robinson only had 10 carries for 33 yards. And so us Packers fans know what the Falcons offense can do and how dominant they can be in the running game. And the Lions defense pretty much shut them out last week in the running game. And so in light of that fact, I think that this needs to be a game where the Packers rely more on the pass. I do know that Matt LaFleur loves to run the ball, set up the play action, but I think that the fact that the Packers haven't really been super successful on the ground, currently 27th that's defense, currently 23rd in rush yards per game at 90.3. I think that's a big part due to the fact that Aaron Jones hasn't been here, and him being back should help that. But I think we've seen what Jordan Love can do when you just allow him to spread it out, pass the ball, let his receivers use their speed to get open. That's the way the Packers came back and won that game against the Saints. So I expect the Packers to pass it a lot this week, especially with Christian Watson back. It's going to be very exciting to see what Jordan Love can do with his full artillery of weapons. And if we look at the Packers' offensive line, in light of the David Bakhtiari injury, Elton Jenkins injury, and now Zach Tom at right tackle, the Packers have done a very solid job of holding up in the pass blocking game. Even though we were without 2 of our best offensive linemen last week, we still only allowed 1 sack versus the Saints. And so the Packers have solid depth on the O-line, and I do think it's going to be a good test this week against a Lions team that sacked Desmond Ridder last week 7 different times. Aiden Hutchinson is a beast, and he's going to be someone to keep an eye on. May have to face off against Josh Nijman if Zach Tom isn't able to go. But Love has also shown the ability to escape the pocket when pressure does come, and he's pretty good in that regard. He did a lot a couple times in the final quarter to come back last week. And now moving to the other side of the ball, the Packers defense was the biggest topic after the terrible loss to the Falcons, where we allowed over 400 yards, 200 yards on the ground. Last game we came in, played really well against the Saints. The Saints didn't really have a great rushing attack. Derek Carr goes down. But all in all, the Packers did a good job of keeping things in front of them for the most part. Mainly keeping the receivers on the Saints in check, who are, I'd say, pretty talented. But this is a Lions offense that can really beat you in many different ways, led by Jared Goff, who I think is a highly underrated quarterback. So far this season, he's played really well. He has 5 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, the 5th highest passer rating in the NFL. And looking at the different weapons the Lions added this offseason, Jahmyr Gibbs in the draft, Sam Laporta in the draft, and then Amon-Ra St. Brown, who of course has been there, has played really, really well. And this is going to be a tough test for the Packers secondary, for the Packers rushing defense as well, considering you have these explosive players on the ground, and the Packers so far this season facing off against, I'd say, top-tier running backs haven't had the most success, have struggled to tackle. And so I do think the Lions are going to be able to move the ball against this Packers defense, and that's why I do think it's going to be a somewhat high-scoring game. I think that the more we see Rashawn Gary back on this Packers defense, he has been able to get pressure at will when he has been playing, and we'll see if he slowly gets those snaps to increase. But this Lions offensive line has held up pretty well this season, only allowing 1 sack per game, which is equal to the Packers. So Goff has a solid offensive line. He has solid weapons, which has led to the Lions being able to, somewhat consistently move the ball. They've been middle tier so far, but I think that they can't be overlooked. And this Packers defense, while playing pretty well against the Saints last week, I think it's going to have their hands more full against Jared Goff and this Lions passing attack and rushing attack as well. So all in all, let's get my score prediction. So it is in Lambeau Field. Jordan Love getting some weapons back. I'm going to go Packers win this game 31-27. I think it's going to be close. It should be a fun game, but I think the Packers have the edge here with lots of their weapons back. It's going to be a high-scoring game in my opinion, so we'll see. Feel free to comment your score prediction in the comment section down below, but that is all I have for this one, and I'll see you guys next time.